The time is 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Tilani Pires. The Prime Minister meets the visiting U.S. high-level delegation. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara will leave for Qatar tonight to discuss on fuel importation. It has been stressed that the stock of urea fertilizer to be received to the country from Oman. The container transportation fees to increase by 10%. The Foreign Minister meets the New Zealand Foreign Minister. And on international news, Ukraine war, Zelensky to address G7 as Russian missiles hit cities. The visiting high-level U.S. delegation representing the U.S. State Department and the Treasury Department met Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe for discussions this morning. It has been reported that attention has been paid on obtaining the support of IMF and several facts. The delegation includes the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Treasury for Asia, Robert Capron, and the Deputy State Secretary Ambassador Kelly Keedalin. They will stay in the country until Wednesday and will take important decisions regarding Sri Lanka. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara will leave for Qatar tonight to discuss fuel importation. Minister Nasir Ahmed will join in the visit. They hope to meet the Prime Minister of Qatar bin Ahmed Al Thani and several heads in the power sector of Qatar. It has also been reported another two representatives are to leave for Russia in this regard. The Attorney General has informed the Appeals Court that he is opposed to granting bail for 4 police officials who were imprisoned on the shooting incident at the Rambukkana protest. Former SSP of Kagala, KB Kirthiratna, and 4 other police officials have been charged in this incident. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The chairman of the fertilizer company, Metsari Vijay Gunawardena, says that the stock of urea fertilizer to be received in the country from Oman will arrive in the island between the 6th and the 8th of next month. Discussions are being held to obtain fuel for the distribution of fertilizer. The leave of employees of several related institutions have been cancelled in order to distribute fertilizer successfully. The Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Transport, Bernard Wasantha, said at a media briefing held in Colombo that they will take a policy decision to propagate push bicycles among the public. He also stated facilities will be provided to buyers by the Ministry of Finance and Industries and the local producers of push bicycles. Container transportation fees will be increased by 10% with effect from midnight today, according to the All-Island United Container Transport Owners Association. The association said the charges are to be increased in view of the increase in fuel prices announced yesterday. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and Lanka IOC had increased the prices of diesel and petrol with effect from yesterday. That ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The bilateral meeting took place between Minister of Foreign Affairs G.L. Pires and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Local Government of New Zealand, Nanaina Mahuta, on the sidelines of the CHOGM summit in Kigali, Rwanda. The Foreign Minister Pires briefed his New Zealand counterpart about the staff-level discussions currently taking place with the IMF in Colombo and the support which the country is receiving from bilateral donors as well as multilateral institutions in respect of supplies of food, fuel and medicines. He underlined the importance of bridging finance during the next few weeks. The New Zealand Foreign Minister agreed to look into the possibility of support from New Zealand and the Commonwealth. That was our main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on Watch Light this afternoon, there are some incidents reported from many areas on house fires due to keeping fuel in houses. Therefore, the police requested the public to refrain from storing fuel in houses. The people can inform on selling of fuel illegally to the number 118 or 119. 675 such persons have been taken into custody. 70,000 litres of fuel have also been taken into custody, which they were hiding in their premises. That came to you in Watchlight. Moving on with world news and the headlines first. Ukraine war, Zelensky to address G7 as Russian missiles hit cities. The Japanese Prime Minister announces additional sanctions on Russia. NASA launches first rocket from Australian commercial space port. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to urge delivery of more heavy weapons when he addresses the G7 group of wealthy nations later. It follows a barrage of Russian missile strikes on Kyiv and other areas over the weekend, which killed at least one. In eastern Ukraine, Russia has taken full control of Severodonetsk and is targeting nearby Lynchik. Yesterday, Mr. Zelensky said delaying arms deliveries was an invitation to Russia to strike again and again. Speaking via his daily video address, he also called for air defense systems and new sanctions on Russia. The Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio has announced additional sanctions against Russia, including a ban on imports of Russian gold. Kishida and other group of 7 leaders discussed diplomatic and security issues at their summit in southern Germany's Schloss Ilamu yesterday. Kishida touched on the situation in Ukraine and said the world stands at crossroads in history and is being tested on whether it can maintain international order based on rules. He noted that frameworks such as United Nations Security Council have not been able to deal with the current situation sufficiently. An unassuming patch of red dirt in remote Australia has made history as the site of NASA's first rocket launch from a commercial spaceport outside the US. A suborbital rocket blasted off from the tiny site early on Monday local time. It will enable studies that can only be undertaken in the southern hemisphere, NASA says. The launch was also the first in Australia in more than 25 years. The rocket is NASA's first of 3 to blast off from the newly constructed Arnhem Space Center on the edge of the Northern Territory. Scientists hope it will help them study the impact of a star's light on the habitability of nearby planets. Back to the world news headlines. Ukraine war, Zelensky to address G7 as Russian missiles hit cities. Japanese Prime Minister announces additional sanctions on Russia. NASA launches first rocket from Australian commercial space port. That ends world news. Moving on with development news, the Asian Development Bank will support for the solar power net project in Sri Lanka. The Sunitha Power Authority has taken measures to implement a broadened program under this loan assistance. It is hoped to generate 1,000 megawatts of solar power project in another 3 years. That came to you in development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Coming up, sports news. Sri Lanka's women's cricket team led by Chamari Athapattu anticipates winning in the final T20 in the 3-match series against India today at the Rangiri Dambulla International Cricket Stadium, commencing 2 p.m. onwards. The Indian women's team, led by Harmanpreet Kaur, won the opening 2 matches and they are in a good position to whitewash the series 3-0. However, they are planning to make a few changes going into this final T20 game to give match exposure. That was sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Chinese authorities have offered to assist Sri Lanka for the establishment of sales galleries in 3 provinces, Yunnan, Sichuan and Beijing, to showcase export products, an official said. The authorities of these provinces in China have informed Sri Lankan envoy in Beijing, Dr. Palita Kohana, about it. That came to you in Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
And on economic news, pepper and cinnamon cultivation has been expanded in the Vallava zone. Cinnamon cultivation has been identified as the most suitable cultivation in the area. Many export agricultural crops are being cultivated in the Chandrika Vawa, Surya Vawa, Muravasihena and Maipura, Tissapura and Mamadala areas. That was economic news. Finally, the weather report. The Met Department says that several spells of showers will occur in the western, Sabaragamu and northwestern provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Matara districts. Fairly strong winds, about 50 kilometers per hour, can be expected at times in the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern and north central provinces and in Trincomalee and Hambantota districts. That was the weather report. And now to end this news broadcast, the main points once again. The Prime Minister meets the visiting U.S. high-level delegation. Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara will leave for Qatar tonight to discuss on fuel importation. It has been stressed that the stock of urea fertilizer to be received to the country from Oman. The container transportation fees to increase by 10%. The Foreign Minister meets the New Zealand Foreign Minister. And on international news, the Ukraine war, Zelensky to address G7 as Russian missiles hit cities. That ends this news broadcast.